Okay, we are going to try this again. I restarted all my things and the gain shows it's showing up correctly now on the audio. So I apologize for the errors. Hopefully that works now. We should be back in just a moment. So let me see if both platforms decided to come back online. All right. Chat. All right, it sounds great now. I don't know what that was. I'm so sorry. So, this is what happens. I got held up at a school and raced home to do this. So, because training the kids, and they had lots of good questions. So I am so sorry for the technical difficulties. I see YouTube is up because people are commenting. Let me make sure Facebook is good. And as long both are good, take 3, I guess. I am so sorry. I typically don't have technical difficulties. So, hey, you know, first one in a while. That's not bad. All right, we are live. Excellent. Audio is perfect. I'm so sorry. All right, well, try 3 as the charm. I'm Samantha, Melco's application team. Our Design Shop Talk, we're trying to answer questions that you guys might have. If you have questions while we're live, I'm happy to answer them, or try my best to. Type them in on the chats. We're live on both Facebook and YouTube, and we'll see what we can get done for you. I'll start off with the questions that were sent in ahead of time. The first one was about training. Where can I find some training? There are a lot of resources available to you. If you go to melco-service.com, let's see, you got videos down here. Over here, you can click on the manual of whichever one you want. And when it opens, as you're scrolling through, you will see these little icons that look like little YouTube thingies. That will take you directly to some videos that you can check out. So those are different training videos as well. These Design Shop Talks, again, if you're on the Melco-Service site, you can go to the FAQ and just search for Design Shop Talk. So here, there's like a little what was talked about. So these talks, typically they're on the fly, right? So you never know what we're going to get until we actually are live. So this is a fun way, or an easy way, to just search. You know, you can control F and see, oh, this video has something in particular I want to look at. And it's got a link to it. You can go look at it and scroll through it. So there's a lot of different resources available for training. We did get you a link to in the comments on some different resources available to you, but we're here to help. So, you know, we want everyone to be successful. So, you know, check it out. What does needle penetration density in an area mean when the box pops up? Okay, so this is the part of the design checker thing. So, let's see if I can force that one. I'm digitizing a bunch of stuff on top of each other to see if I can force the bad behavior. So, nope, I haven't yet. Still not there. Okay, so clearly it's going to digitize politely for me and not give me errors. So when you go to that design checker and it gives you that error that says needle penetration density in an area, that means you have a whole lot of stitches going into an area. All right, so if you click on it, it will show you the area that it's concerned with. Most of the time that's because you either have way too many things stacked on top of each other, right? So it's sewing and sewing and sewing and sewing, and it's putting 2,000 stitches in a 0.1 inch space. So it's just too dense. So that's just an indicator that you need to go look at that area and see if what you're doing makes sense. Sometimes you're narrowing down to a point and you know it's going to sew fine, so it may or may not be okay. That's a judgment call from who you're working on, but it's giving you that warning of in that region you might have an issue. Okay, so that's what that's actually telling you. When a box pops up showing normal stitch or jump stitch, which do you choose? Okay, so normal stitch or jump stitch. Right here, you've got normal or jump. Well, it depends. Do you want to digitize? You're going to use normal, right? Because normal is going to do a running stitch of stitches. If all you want is to make the machine move from this point to that point, that's a jump stitch, right? So you can program that in as a jump. Now, I would suggest not doing that. I mean, you can clearly see I put in a jump stitch. It's there. So you can digitize it, but if you just digitize, it'll automatically put trims and things like that in. You don't have to manually digitize jump stitch, but I always just use the walk. And so there are cases, particularly when using home use machines, sometimes if you're trying to avoid having the machine stop to go do because they don't have trimmers, some of them. So typically the machine will stop, and then you'll go trim the thread, hit start, it'll go to the next location, start sewing. If you want it to just keep on sewing, you can program in a jump stitch, the machine will move over and you'll go. Is it possible to arrange your hoop selection? I don't believe it is. So there was a question over here on these hoops. Is there any way to rearrange these to be in a different order? I don't think so. I've never actually looked into it because they always seem to go wherever they want to go and not where I want them. So I don't believe there's a way to organize them. I will find out though. I've never bothered trying to figure it out. So I'll look into that for you, Mark, and let you know. So that was a question typed in. Yeah, the design checker, these are just warnings, right? So that's all it's kind of telling you is go look at those areas, see if what's there makes sense. If it does, go ahead. If not, make the changes and move along. You have an X, it's leaving long tails of thread when it starts to sew. It could be in your settings. It might just mean your trimmer needs to be cleaned and oiled. What I would suggest is to call tech support and have them walk through you just to check, because it's machine to machine, right? So it might be a setting on your case, or it might just be the trimmer needs cleaning and oiling. So, I would call tech support and start from there, because they're fantastic at walking through different things. All right, can you show how to change the stitch order? I can't find the cut, paste, and clipboard video or in the manual. Okay, all right, change the stitch order. Let's start with that. Here's DesignShop. All right, so I'm going to draw some lines. Oh, I drew a jump stitch. I don't want a jump stitch. I want a line. And I'm going to turn off my grid. So I'm going to draw 3 lines, holding Alt so they go. Oh my goodness, I keep on drawing jump stitches. Let's fix that. Walk, normal. There we go. Okay, so we had several questions all kind of related to the same thing. All right, so the questions were related to branching. So someone asked, it's later, you'll see it, but how do you do branching, which is a different software's term for what I'm going to show you. And this one was, how do you rearrange the sequence of things? Again, you can do it manually, or you can do it yourself. So here I've got all these things, and if I update the trims, you'll see there's trims between them all. All right, so what are my options? Well, I can rearrange these all to manually by just putting them in the order I want them to sew by dragging them around, right? So I can rearrange sequence just by moving this tree. Let's say I want these lines to sew first. I can bring that entire sequence up to the top. It will sew first, and then it will sew that thing, and then the mess I made here, right? So you can rearrange them by color groups this way, just click and drag, right? Now, if what you're wanting to do is to make this auto-optimize, auto-branch, auto-arrange the starts and stops to minimize your trims, it can do that too. So if you select all those items, right? So if I select the top one, hold my shift key down, select the other, right here, that's the normal start stop. If you hold it down, you'll see that it's this auto sequence. I can tell it to auto sequence, and what that just did is it rearranged these things to put them in a different order and move the starts and stops so that they're closer. So notice this one, all of them, when I drew them, I drew from top to bottom. But notice this one starts from bottom, it goes to top. The one next to it now goes from top to bottom. This one goes from bottom to top. And then this weird line goes from top to bottom. So it automatically resequenced all of that to put it in a, more compact sewing thing. So now I have no trims. So that thing will sew all together. All right. So you have that. There is also the option to do, and this was again related right here. You see this guy? Auto closest point. So without that selected, what it's going to do, so I'm going to draw a column. All right, so I got a column here. And notice it's not selected. That one I started there, I ended there. Now I'm going to do another column here. Again, I started that one here and ended there. So notice it's going to put a trim in there when I update the trims, right? Well, if I do that exact same exercise, turning auto closest point on, right? So click, 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 click. All right, so I drew that column, and now I'm going to come over here, draw this column. Notice it rearranged, it auto sequenced closest point. So I don't have to go move all that around. So it saves me a lot of time digitizing of having to move my starts and stops around, right? So it'll automatically digitize closest point that way. All right. So that's, again, where was that? Right there. So auto closest point, it's automatically going to rearrange your starts and stops so that it's what I would like to say. That one start there, stop there. This one, the propeller's down there. I want it up here. So how do I do that? I would have to move this end point up. And now that can start there, stop there. Well, here it did it automatically. It automatically resequenced my start and stops to be efficient. Okay, so I don't have to move things around. All right, so it's a big time saver. Okay, so that I think was 4 separate questions related to that. So how to change stitch order, I showed that. Cut, copy, paste, that's just Control C, Control V, I guess. So, right, so I can select this, Control C, Control V, move it around, there, copy. There's also up here, copy, paste, cut, again, paste. So they're all still there. It's just those guys right there. So you can do it Control C, Control V, Control X if you're going to do it by keyboard, Control V or or you can cut it here, paste it there. I mean, you got all those things. Good morning, Kritza, and MK Buddy, and Mark. Thanks for joining. All right, let's see. Yeah, so we got all those. All right, so we showed all that. When loading a bot design in DesignShop, it comes up as random colors, and I have to change them one by one. Yes, you are correct. So you do. That really depends on what file format you're buying and that you bring in. So some save color data in them, and others do not. EXPs, DSTs, they save no color information within the file. So every time you open it, it's going to open in crazy colors. It's default colors. I just like to call them crazy colors. So for instance, I have this guy saved as a EXP. So when it opens, it comes up as crazy colors because there are that particular file format cannot save colors into it. Okay. So you're going to have to go change it to whatever colors you want and save it as an OFM, save color data. All right. If you open so let me go open one this one has colors, and now I'm going to save it off as, let's say, Huss or Jeff. Those save color information. All right, so I'm going to save it as a Huss. I'm going to close the stuff. No, I'm going to go open that HUS file, and it saves color information, but you notice it's kind of different color information. So they will get you closer, but it's often not exact, right? So you're still going to have to go select your particular color card for it, okay? It just depends on how each file is saved off. Your PES files, your Jeff, your Huss, art files, all of those save color information in them, so you'll be way closer to having correct colors. You'll then just have to tailor it to your specific thread chart. EXPs, DSTs, they don't save anything. No color information is stored in them. The EXP Plus, for some machines, that will save off an INF file, which has color information in them. So depending on whether you're you use that or not. That is an option as well. Yeah. So, yep, that's why. You have a roll-in printer cutter, excuse me. And can you use printed heat transfer material? Yes. And add stitches to it? Yes. Would you press it to the shirt first? No. And so I wouldn't do any of that. You can, but I wouldn't. So, all right, let me take that back. If all you're doing is a logo and you want to put a border around it, let's say that. So you can absolutely cut if it's a circle of heat transfer, right? You can cut it out, make sure you have alignment points on it. And generally you're going to have to make it slightly larger because when you print, it shrinks a little bit, and when you heat press, it shrinks a little. So you got to play with it a little bit, or use the red line alignment feature. That's another way you can do it. But yeah, you can absolutely heat press it, laser left on the 2 alignment points, laser bullseye. It'll rotate and center your embroidery, and then you embroider around it. So yes, you can do that. You can also look up a technique called rip away applique. That is where you just essentially lay your vinyl down and embroider on it, right? So let's say you did a patterned HTV. You printed, I don't know, an HTV that has a whole bunch of 4-leaf clovers on it. Okay, so you don't really care if it's this way or that way. You can lay that down, embroider over it, rip all the excess away, take it to your heat press and heat press it, and now all that HTV is stuck and you're good to go. Okay, so rip away applique is what that tends to be called. I used to do it a lot with glitter HTV. If you buy it with the liner on top, be careful. That stuff, I forgot about the liner, that big plastic that holds the carrier, and I didn't take it off before I sewed it, and that was silly because then I basically sewed through some really heavy plastic, and it's not supposed to be in the final garment. So make sure you either buy the one that doesn't have that carrier or take it off first. So yeah, you can absolutely do this either using laser alignment or just laying the vinyl down, sewing on it, and then heat pressing it after the fact. Both techniques work well. How to keep color on left to stay after right clicking and add Madeira numbers from cones. I do not really understand what you're asking here. I assume you're talking about OS. It depends on what machine you're running. Some of those, like the Melco OS, it saves the color info. Bravo OS, I don't remember. I don't believe it does. So Bravo OS, I'm not 100% sure on that because between the different versions, there's different features, and I always confuse them. So there is that. But what I would suggest for that particular one is give tech support a call, because if there is a setting that needs to be changed, they can help you, or they can tell you, no, that's not a feature of your particular software. So can you demonstrate how to produce gradient fills for text? Okay, so there was another question on fills on text. Oh, I don't want that. All right, I'm going to start a new file. So there are new custom designs right here. So there's these new built-in alphabets, and how they work is you drag them on the screen. They're pre-set up and set up to be beautiful for gradients, and then you can just change these colors to whatever colors you want, right? And sew them out, and they're lovely, right? So they're pre-set up for you. I personally would, when I'm doing gradient text, I digitize them from scratch, but meaning I don't know. Let's see. Properties. I'm going to go to a flat fill, right? Let's see what that did for me. Okay. And then I'm going to go to effects, turn on custom density, blend, apply, give it another color. Let's see, did that work? No, it didn't. Okay. Or did it not take? It did not work. All right. So what I would do for this is create your lettering, and then operations convert to wireframe, because now I can take this guy and go put in the different properties. So custom density, blend, apply, and then now I can have 2 colors and turn that into a blend. And you can play with the different properties of that blend, but that's how the blend tool works over here. So it's custom density and you turn on blend. The other way you can always do it is if you use just the custom density. Notice, in order to do it this way, I would want to sew the bottom first with none and then have my other on top of it, right? So that's not pretty, but if I copy and paste, take this one, turn off the custom density, the one underneath. There you go. So you can create those. Now on these, you can always come in and turn on Trapunto, for instance, and that will clean up the edges and make it really pretty. So you can either use it by using the blend directly, or you can stack them and then play with the one you want to change. And I like to, when I'm working with blends, I like to turn on this thing to auto so I can see real time what's happening. And I can add different points and get the look I'm going for, which, you know, depends on the project, right? So maybe I want something like that. Okay. So that's how I would suggest doing them, is either using the, all right, orange, properties, effects, custom density, blend, apply, right? And then playing with the numbers until you get the fill to look how you want, because I don't personally like that very much, and make sure you turn on the Trapunto. But that's just going to come with figuring out what properties you like for your particular blend. Okay, or you can stack them as two separate elements. Okay, so you've got these guys over here pre-digitized, or you can take whatever you want and blend them yourself. Can I show all the new fonts? Let me just say, I love Playful Puppies. It's so cute. And this chain stitch font is way cool. I did a big jacket back with it. It was just a neat effect. And then, because everyone knows how much I love decoratives, watch this. So you can do a decorative and come over here and use that same chain stitch to draw your own shapes. And there's a thick one and a thin one. So you can create your own to be whatever you want it to be. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, there's a handful of new fonts. These two I just showed you, they're in the custom tool area, the custom shape area. These are all typable fonts that you can use. You can also turn all the fonts into appliques, right? So let's say I used Bofo. And we made that 3 inches tall. It's going to make a ton of stitches at the moment, and if I go into the properties and tell it to be an applique, poof, now I have that set up as an applique font. So that's pretty cool. That can happen with all the fonts. You can turn them all into appliques. Okay. All right. Yeah, we did that one. We talked about gradients. Yeah, so I showed where the custom density was. Best way to digitize a sharp corner. Okay, so there's a few ways you can handle sharp corners. One is to rotate your stitches. All right, meaning, oh my goodness, I keep on hitting help with my other, there we go. Let's go back here. All right, so one way you can get clean corners is to kind of rotate that stitch up, right? So you see it's going to go to a straight point, rotate them over and keep going down. So that will sew nice and clean because that stitch is nice and long. It'll give you a nice straight point. Another way you can always do them is figure out what your column needs to be or what you're going for to narrow it down to. And so right here, before you can run a walk stitch up and out. Oh, not a decorative, a walk. And that will sew first and then this, and that will give you a nice clean point as well. So you can run a walk stitch out and then have your column start. That will let these stitches sew nice, but give you that nice sharp point. It looks a little bit strange on the screen, but it sews really well. Okay, so those are two different techniques you can use. Either twist your stitches up to a point or add a running stitch out and then come back with your columns coming down. The other one was, how do you round it? Well, if you're using a single line, so let's say I use my single line, and now I want to add a rounded end to this, or a point. Your two ways to do it is, I can of course do it this way. Okay, so I can twist them out. That's one way. The other way to do it would be to either do my running stitch out and then do my cap back. Or if I'm trying to round it, I can do stuff like this. Curve, curve, flat, flat. And put a small flat on the top. It'll end up curving nicely and look pretty and make it look nice and rounded. But it's done as two separate elements. So I've got my single line and then my cap on the end. Okay. So it's kind of three ways. If you're doing points, rotate it, add a running stitch out, and then have your tapered. If you're rounding it, put a slight flat, but have the curves coming up to it. It might look a little strange on the screen, but it sews really nicely. Okay. About upgrading is from 11 to 12. Is there a cost between for the upgrades between versions? Yeah, it's new software, so it's a paid upgrade. There are upgrade paths, right? So you can, if you had, let's say, version 11 Pro and you want to go to 12, that's a cheaper price than buying 12 outright. So things like that. So they have upgrade paths depending on what you have. Or let's say you have 10 lettering and you want to go to 12 Pro. So the best thing you can do for that is to give your salespeople a call and they can let you know. I know there were free upgrades depending on when you bought your machine. So if you're a new, let's say you've got a new version of the software you bought in January and we just came out with 12, well, you get it for free. You get the upgrade to 12 for free. So there's things like that. But the best thing I could suggest is get in touch with your salesperson, your account manager, give them a call and they can tell you, what the different options are for you. Sometimes corners go wonky. How can you fix like a cat? Yeah, so like when the M goes crazy. So let's see. Let's see if I can make it go crazy and then we'll fix it. That's not going to do it. I don't remember which fonts I can force that way. Maybe this one? Military block. No, not that one. Block. I'm trying to remember which ones in the past I've been able to make do it. Not that. Maybe that one. Okay, so if I have borders to that one, and of course not, it goes perfect. Okay, I'm going to exacerbate the problem here. So if you get crazy things on here, where, and of course, I'm having a hard time making it actual fail. Okay, let's just ignore the fact that it's all goofy. When you get things like this, where it's going really far down and you're going, that is not what I wanted. I want this way up here. It's a matter of just addressing the wireframe points. You might have too many points next to each other. They might be right, on top of each other and doing crazy stuff like that. So it's just a matter of deleting the extra points and moving them around slightly. You can also see that happen with crazy stitch directions. So if I'm just trying to think of all the ways I've seen weirdness, is if the stitch directions, you got a whole bunch of them on top of each other, that's another way. So you can also come over to the edit stitch direction and delete the extra ones that are causing the problem. But 9 times out of 10, it has to do with having the wireframe points either too many right next to each other, or they just need to be updated. So you just need to fix your wireframe points. So like here, delete those extras and it fixes itself. Okay, so that's typically all I ever do when I see those, is I come to where the point is, and most of the time I just move it up a little bit and it's done. Or notice that there's, a gazillion stitch directions there. Okay, well, I don't need a gazillion to make a turn. I only need 1 or 2. So I can go delete those extra stitch directions and poof, all better. Okay, so it's really a case by case, looking at them individually. All right. Yeah, I pulled the gradient lettering because this question was, hey, you showed us the lettering last week, but didn't actually show us how to use it. It's click and drag onto the screen for those built-in ones. The optional closest point, so that was related to the branching that was asked about here. So I did all of those earlier. And remember, that was the closest point type thing. So you've got different options. One, if you're digitizing, you can turn it on right there, and it will automatically rearrange things to put the starts and stops near each other. So it's all done for you ahead of time. Or if you digitized a bunch of stuff and now you want to have it automatically correct it or do it for you, you can then go through and select all your elements that you want and come over here and say, write that one, auto sequence, and it will automatically add running stitches, resequence everything, move the starts and stops around to optimize the flow. So that's the branching feature there. All right, so those were the questions I had sent in ahead of time. What other questions? Did I miss any in the text? Let me quick. I'm glad the sound is better. I apologize for the issue there. Mark, I'm going to have to get back to you. We did that. We did all that. Cool. All right, so any other questions before we call it a day? I spent the morning with a bunch of high schoolers. So some of the schools around here have our machines in the schools, and they kind of have programs set up for the kids to learn how to do it. So they're learning trades. Is there a way to do gradients on satins? Yes, it's kind of strange. I use them on occasion, but satin gradients are interesting, right? So I've got my satin here, 40, zoom in on it. So I'm going to copy and paste another one on top of it, go into the properties of that by double clicking on it. Let's give it another color so we can see what we're doing. I'm going to go into the underlay and turn all this off because it's going to mess it up. And then I'm going to go to Effects, turn on Custom Density. There you go. We got a gradient on a satin. And then you can play with the different ones and move the points around, whatever you're going to do to see what sort of look you're going for. So, yeah, you can do them. What other questions do we have? Oh, so yeah, they teach embroidery at the schools, so the school has me come over once a month, if that, just to teach them something new, and then they spend the next few weeks doing that, plus new stuff, and they get a list of stuff, and then they have me come back and show them more things. It's pretty fun. What's cool is seeing the kids' creativity. Some of the stuff they come up with, I'm like, well, that's different. All right. It's fun. I enjoy it. All right, any other questions before we call it a day? Give everyone a second to type in. Make sure I'm not off before you get enter hit. All right, well, I'm going to call it a day. You guys, again, I apologize for the audio malfunction this morning, but I'll be back next week. I got to do it on Thursday again. Friday, I got to drive to Fort Myers to go play with some machines over there. So, yeah, I will talk to you guys next week on Thursday. And you guys have a great weekend. Have some fun sewing. Let us know what you want to learn about, and we'll try to get it incorporated. But other than that, I'll talk to you then. Bye.